Hello, fiber friends! It is your knitting friend, Beth. I am coming to you today from Bighorn, Wyoming, where my family's on vacation, and I have a lot to show you, but not a whole lot of progress on any one particular thing. Sometimes I get into that, like, I'll decide I want to finish this, and then I want to work on that, and so I get a little bit done here, a little bit there, and I kind of, this week, part of it for me this week is we spent 16 hours driving here to Bighorn, Wyoming, and we did not stop at a hotel on the way and rest, and my whole family agrees that was a mistake. So on the way home, we will be taking our time. We will be stopping somewhere in the middle, and we will be sleeping overnight in a hotel. Part of it for us was this is the first time taking our dog on a vacation, and so, you know, we had to figure out how to work through that, and we wanted to kind of, rather than stretching it out over 2 days, for the dog's sake, we wanted to just get it over with. But for our sake, that was not a good idea. There were a couple of times where both my husband and I have said, I don't think we were truly safe. But we made it. We're alive. Nobody fell asleep while driving, and we're good. So, with that out of the way, I am wearing today my Malaga tank. This is an finished object from a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure, well, maybe I just finished it last year. But anyway, Malaga tank by Alison Green. It is a great knit. It is all in cotton. The detail on the bottom is my favorite part of this, as I throw the whip I'm going to talk about aside, but this is what really drew me to it. I think I modified this some. I think this was supposed to be like a couple more layers of these loops, but it's such a cute finish. I love it. And then the neckline has like a crab stitch detail, but the fit is such a classic tank fit that, I mean, it just looks like something you could wear in your wardrobe. Like, you can style it with a cardigan over it. You could do all kinds of different things with it. It's such a nice basic piece and an easy knit because it's in DK yarn. So goes really fast. Other finished objects I'm showing are Free by V.B. Ulrich from Rowan Magazine 71 and Campside Cardi by Alicia Plummer. These two I wanted to include today because last year on my trip to Wyoming, I was working on both of those cardigans, which, as I was getting ready to come here, made me think, I have to be working on 2 cardigans again. Why am I not working on 2 cardigans? So I cast it on. It's not much of a cast on, but I've got the cuffs finished on my Knitter's Dude. And this is a project that I am working on for my oldest son, Brandon. And I am loving this. I just learned, because of this pattern, how to do a tubular cast on with waste yarn, and that was the coolest thing. So I'm going to show this up close. I think some of like the bumpiness will probably block out, but I just think it's the coolest cast on. I don't know if this one looks any smoother. I don't know which one was my first one and which was my second, but this was such a fun technique to learn. If you have not done a tubular cast on, check this out. Knitter's Dude by Andrea Rangel. or is it Rangel? I don't know. I am doing this in Knit Picks yarn. All of the details are below for the colorways that I will be using. It's a colorwork sweater that is steeked. So these are my 2 accent colorways, and my husband's slamming the oven door. So this is what happens when you podcast from an Airbnb. But you guys should see the view from here. I will show you some pictures. Maybe this would be a good time to insert them. One of the great things about being here is the nature. Every day that we have been here, we have been visited by deer. They come, and I don't know what's out there, but there's something in the grass that they really love to eat, because we see them every day. Sunrise, sunset, you know, a couple of times a day, and they will come and eat whatever's in the grass out there. So it must be delicious. Anyhow, that is all that I am going to show for whips, because I really have not made a lot of progress on anything specific. The brioche shawl that I was working on last week, I had just cast it on. That one, I made a mistake in the brioche section, and I tried to fix it, which this is why I want to practice it on a shawl. I tried to fix it, and I was looking at, you know, you've got the little hood stitches, the yarn overs, and trying to fix one that is like a dropped stitch is really hard to understand when you're trying to drop down and figure out, okay, where does all of this intermingle? So I'm not quite there yet in my skills. So I ended up ripping back a couple of rows, because I was only like 2 or 3 rows into a brioche section, and so I ripped back to the garter section, and I left my needles there. So I haven't touched it since that part, but I'm pretty confident that I have where I need to be, and maybe I should show it. I'll take a picture and throw it in here, insert them so that you guys can see where I'm at with that. But that's the Budding Brioche Blooms shawl by Jennifer Shiels Toland. But what I want to get into is all of my acquisitions. So the first thing that I bought here in Wyoming, that my family and I walked through the downtown area in Sheridan, Wyoming. Sheridan is right next to Bighorn, and from what I understand, Bighorn is a very small town. So Sheridan is the town that people go into if they want to do any kind of shopping. Look at this, you guys. I got an amazing deal on this bag. This was $60-some. And I was like, I told my husband this was a great deal, and I think he doubted that. But I know it is. And look at the great pockets inside here. There is a zipper pocket on this side. It's a beautiful thing. And then I asked the shop owner if it was locally made, and she said, unfortunately, no, it was made in India. And I'm like, okay, well then I guess that's, you know, the bargain price is because of that. So it is a beautiful, beautiful bag. It seems like it's got a nice quality finish on it. It is from, oh wait, it is called Wyld Weekender Duffle. W-Y-L-D, Wyld Weekender Duffle. And I don't remember the name of the shop. It says WNP on it, and I don't know. I'm assuming that's an abbreviation for the shop name. If I can find that, I will insert it here so that people know. I don't know if you can order online from this shop, but possibly. And so I will link a website if they have one. But I love this bag. This is like my next sweater's quantity of yarn that I bought here in Wyoming can go into this. So, I'm so excited about that. I love that bag. Okay, so.
Wyld and pretty.
Wyld and pretty. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
So, Wyld and Pretty in Sheridan, Wyoming. So, I'm gonna go into what I got at the Sheridan yarn shop. It is called the Fiber House, and I bought this. I know this is not anything special. It's not a vacation souvenir yarn. I could probably buy this at many yarn shops. But while we were there, my son was there with us, and I had been knitting socks in the car on the way here. My fruit stripe gum socks, the blue one, the blue colorway, I was working on them, and he was commenting on how nice they were and kind of hinting that he wanted his own. And I was like, these are not going to fit your size 12 feet. You do not have size 7 women's feet, and I'm not starting these over. So I saw this yarn and I thought it's a similar colorway to what my son liked. And so I called him over and I said, what do you think of this one? And he said, yeah, I like that. So I bought this. It is Adriafil Calzasocks, and it's a 75-25 blend. And the woman working at the shop who told me her name, but I forgot it. I'm sorry. Anyhow, she said for his size 12 feet, I'm probably going to need a contrast color for heels and toes. So he picked out this one. It is Universal Yarns, Uni Merino, and it's the 75-25 blend. The colorway of this one, I don't think I said the other one. I'll go back to that. Oh, the color is 126 of this. This is a nice teal. And this one, the colorway is also a color number. It is 164. So that's it for the socks. But also this was my first choice that I found. I was looking for souvenir yarn, as one does when on vacation. So I found this. Oh my gosh, do I love this. I have a mustard yellow winter coat, and I think this would make a very nice cowl. Why do words have to be so hard? I think this would make a really nice cowl, and these colors are University of Wyoming cowboy colors, and I don't know if the dyer had intended them as that, but the dyer is from Casper, Wyoming, and it is running on yarn. And this is actually a bulky yarn. I was actually intending to find a DK so that I could make my row by row sampler cowl out of it, but I found this bulky, and we'll see how I end up using it. This is 100% Superwash Merino. It's going to make a very nice cozy cowl. The last thing that I bought we went in Buffalo, Wyoming, they have a yarn mill, a wool mill, and it is called Mountain Meadow Wool. And there's a website that I've linked below for you. They have a tour. It's a self-guided tour of the entire process of how they mill the wool, from getting it in these massive bags. I'll insert pictures because I took pictures with my husband's phone because I had left mine in my car. There's these massive cube bags of wool, and we saw on a video that they have a video running on an endless loop in this room that they have to do your self-guided tour, and we saw the guys like lifting it off a forklift, and it looks like it's pretty heavy. I think they even said how heavy it is, but it's heavy. So they take it from these bags, they wash it, they card it, but then they also, of course, from once they have the roving, then they make it into the yarn. So it's a lot of processing. And then they also do at the mill, they dye their own yarn. But I think, this was not part of the tour. But I believe they said that they mill for other people. So they will send undyed, like somebody can bring in their wool and say, here, process this into roving for us. And they'll do just that much. Or process this into yarn for us and they'll do just that much. And then they can send it on to be dyed or whatever the case may be. So they do the full process and sell finished yarn, as well as completed garments. They have hats, they have scarves, they have their specialty is their hoodies. They have knitting machines to knit full garments. And it even talks on like some of the placards about exactly what they do. And sometimes, like, if they miss one stitch and they can't fix it, they will unravel the whole project and just start again. So I thought that was really interesting. I was like, oh man, that sounds like something that would be a nightmare for you or me, but they're just knitting it on machines. So it's, for them, it's just part of the process. Like, sometimes it happens. And so it's funny because I feel like that's something that I've recently talked about, is how that is, it's just part of the process. You need to get comfortable with, we make mistakes and we have to frog sometimes. And, I as much as we don't want that to be part of the process, it frequently is. So, with all that being said, I'm going to show you my big take from this yarn shop. Look at all this. I bought a sweaters quantity. So, I will put it up on whichever side I always put it up on. But I am planning to make the Codebreaker cardigan. I can't remember the designer name. It'll be on wherever I put it up here. But it is a colorwork cardigan, and the main color will be this pretty mossy green. This is a DK weight, and here, let me show the label up close for you. And I don't know, with the glare from the sun, I don't know how well you can see that. And here is the color. It is nice. This, I think, is a truer color from this distance. That close-up is not as true to color as holding it back a little further. let me tell you about the yarn composition. This is their Jackson base, and the colorway is called Fern, and it's a 2-ply DK weight. It comes in a 3.5 ounce skein that's 255 yards. It is 100% mountain merino wool. It's got a trademark sign on here after the merino. So I don't know if the mountain merino is trademarked or just the word merino. So I'm curious about that. But it says that it is grown on Camino Ranch, Buffalo, Wyoming. So I know exactly where this yarn came from. Now I want to look up Camino Ranch and find out like more about them. I mean, that's so cool to find out like where the sheep were who grew the wool that will become my sweater. So cool. Anyhow, that's that one. Then I also have in the same base, I have this Marigold colorway, and that will be in the contrast colors at the top of this cardigan. And I feel like it's, you know what, it's funny, sometimes I'll watch this back and I'll be like, no, I know it was showing true to color on a different part than what I think. So I believe this is showing more orangey on screen than it is. I would say this is more of a mustard yellow, but so be it. That's the lighting I have. Then here's what happened. There was another knitter in the shop, and she and I were talking quite a bit, because, you know, that's what we tend to do as knitters. We start talking about our knitting and what we like to make and what kind of yarn we like to use and how much we like whatever we're seeing there at the store and everything like that. And so this woman was shopping at the same time as me, and she ended up checking out before me. And so while I was finishing up deciding what I wanted, I was on my own without a store clerk to help me. And, you know, generally speaking, I feel like I know what I'm doing. However, when I went to check out, the clerk pointed out to me that these two colors, don't they look great together? Again, showing more orange than it actually is. This is a very, I would call it a rust brown. And this is a very, this is showing more Kelly green, I feel like, than it is in real life. But what the clerk pointed out is that these are 3-ply and the other ones are 2-ply. And I'm thinking, you know what, this is going to be at the color work at the top. I don't know that it's going to make that much difference because I'm going to, you know, it's just a different part of the sweater. So I'm hoping it doesn't make too much difference. I'm hoping it doesn't like add too much bulk at the top or change my my gauge. And I know in the color work, my gauge is going to change anyway because that's just how color work is, or at least for me it is. So this base is called Alpine. This colorway is Sorrel or Sorrel, I don't know how you say that. And this is, again, it's a 3-ply DK, and in parentheses here it says worsted. I don't, but yet it says that it's a DK weight, so I assume that means it's worsted spun instead of woolen spun. And I have never really fully, I know one's twisted one way and one's twisted the other. I don't know which is which, but when I look at this one that does not say worsted, the 2-ply, and I look at the 3-ply, when I look at them together, it looks to me like they are spun in the same direction. So I don't know what that difference is. This one also alpine. The colorway is grass. So anybody going through Wyoming, if you are on 90, it is so close to 90 that you should just get off and go there. It's a great way to just, stretch your legs while you're on the road and learn about the whole wool milling process. It's really cool. They had a lot of different samples of things that you could touch, and you could use a drum carder. They had carding paddles. I don't know if that's the right word for them, but paddles seems like the right words. When you're holding them in your hands, they're like paddles. Anyhow. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. You could try out weaving looms. They had different sizes of them in there. There were spinning wheels in like their little showcase room, but there was not, it didn't look like there was any way of using those. I think they were there like without the treadles, so you couldn't actually spin. There was no bobbin there or anything like that. And this is me just knowing enough terminology to be dangerous. So I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know enough to know that you couldn't really spin, but maybe that's something that sometimes they have. So, comments. While I've been away, I have not been answering the comments. So I kind of feel bad about that because, I had said that I was going to be more visible online after, with this being my summer break and everything like that. And I know that there are at least 3 comments that I have not yet even acknowledged. And I think it's just because I've been traveling and, busy with my family and just taking some time away. But you know how much I love talking about yarn and yarny things and knitting and everything. So I will be replying to those comments, and probably what I'll do is I'll go ahead and print everything out when I get home so that I can talk about the comments, and I will have a whole segment of that when I get home. And I've even thought about maybe publishing twice a week, that I will do one episode of yarny things and one episode of talking about the comments. Tell me what you think. I feel like sometimes maybe people don't want to watch a long episode, but maybe if I record in 2 separate episodes, it feels more manageable, and that would be something that appeals to you. So let me know. Comment below. Hey guys, I'm home from vacation, and I apologize for the horrible editing that you just saw of me going from vacation me to home me, but I don't have a whole lot of comments from last week's episode, so I thought let's just talk about comments. I'll edit them in, and I was trying to get the episode ready to post last night, but about 10:30 last night, I was just about finished, and then I started rewatching it and realized that the beginning was cut out somehow, which is something I clearly did myself. It wasn't like, in editing, things happen and you lose material, and so be it. So I knew I was going to have to start over. I mean, not from scratch, but you know, I was going to have to do something to add things in, and it was more than I had the capacity for last night. So I'm going to talk about the comments and then send you off on your way. Okay, so I had comments about my faux set from a lot of people. So I'm just going to kind of list the people who said that my faux set turned out great, beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, all of those wonderful words. I got comments from Wendy, Lucille, Stephanie, Sharon, and Colleen about my faux set. So thank you for saying so. I am in love with that sweater myself. So Wendy also said, I'm glad to hear you're wanting to be the authentic you. Keep on doing what you're doing. So yeah, I think, I don't remember exactly why I was saying that in the last episode. But I do know that I see a lot of people who, how do I want to say it? People seem to be like, look at me, I'm so perfect in my life, and I do all this perfect stuff, and I'm here on YouTube talking about my perfection. And I'm just like, screw perfection. I'm lucky if I get anything right ever. So I'm happy to occasionally have a win. And I don't want to come off sounding like I know everything and I'm doing it in perfection. So that's right now, that's my feeling about authentically being myself. I don't remember what I said last week, so I hope it was somewhere along the same lines. Or, you know, even if it was different and I was just being authentically myself. Let's see. Susan said she loves the shawls too. Thank you. Stephanie has been around for a long time. I feel like she's been there from the beginning for me. So special shout out to Stephanie. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next meetup. Sharon. Okay. She's talking specifically about the faux set and saying that she likes it without the bobbles. Me too. And that maybe she'll do that next time. Go for it, Sharon. You're going to do another one. I can't wait to see that. But here's where it gets interesting. About the swatch for your lion's head sweater. Have you washed and blocked your swatch? Yes, I did. Before I measured last time, I did wash and block it. As far as blocking though, what I do, I don't like to stretch things and like make them into the size and shape that I'm looking for. I just lay it down on a drying mat and let it do what it wants to do. So I'm not doing any stretching to try to make it what the gauge is supposed to be. I'm just plopping it down wet. My drying mat is like right here on the floor, which you can't see because it's just off camera. And right now I've got my campsite cardi drying on it because I had to soak that thing after my trip because it smelled like a campfire. But I guess that's fitting because it's campsite cardi. I digress. She says, have you washed and blocked your swatch? That can make a difference. Also, wait a couple of days after it is dry and measure again. It's been now a full week and I have not done that. So I'm thinking I will do that. I will definitely be talking more about that in next week's episode. She says, the yarn will settle into the size it wants to be. If you can't get the gauge specified for your size with a fabric you like, you can figure out what size to make to get the size you want. In other words, a bigger size if your gauge is too tight, by looking at the total number of stitches around the body and divide by your stitches per inch. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for that advice. So I am going to, I have since re-swatched, reblocked, and I have not yet measured my new dried swatches, because I did that, it must have been right before I left for my trip. So I know I shoved them into my bag with my other, like my project bag for the lion's head top, and I have not even looked at that because I was on vacation and doing other things. So but I will come back to that. One thing that I will say is next week's episode, I should have a finished object for you. So I'm very excited about that. I did a lot of knitting in the car on my way home. So hopefully I will have that one thing finished at least, but not the lion's head. At least by next week's episode, I'm hoping that I will have an idea of at least the size I want to knit for the lion's head top. So stay tuned for that. Colleen, Selfish Knitter. She says your post set looks great. She's kicking herself for not buying the Barrel colorway, which is that teal color that went across the bust on my faux set. And yes, that is definitely, I think for Colleen and me both, that's one of those colors that we gravitate to all the time. I learn more from YouTube than Instagram because you can explain and show more detail about your projects in a video. Yes, that's why when the pandemic hit and I saw, it was Suburban Stitcher that I saw first. I was watching her. I watched every episode she had on YouTube, and I became obsessed with knitting then. So it was something I had no idea existed, and just from seeing that, I got sucked into this whole online knitting world. Also, I think having a lot of whips is one of the prerequisites for having a knitting podcast. I think you're right, Colleen, because I don't know what I would be talking about if I didn't have a lot of whips. So I will say part of the problem with that, though, is that I can do a lot of knitting in a week and not have a lot to say the next week, because it's like, oh, look, I did an inch on this one and a half an inch on that one. And then really it's like, here's that same whip again. So I'm sure, like, if I, as a viewer watching, I am looking for, give me new inspiration every time. So if I keep casting on and casting on and casting on and I never finish anything, then I want to see those finishes so that I'm inspired to have the finished object that I'm seeing. So I'm hoping to get there. I'm still obviously looking at new cast-ons because you've seen all the stuff I'm buying and all the stuff I'm casting on. So we'll see where I go with that. Last but not least, Doris says she's working on a sport weight wool sweater. She's not a fast knitter, but she works on one thing at a time. And it's a color work by Jessica McDonald in gray with off-white design. So I asked her if she posts somewhere. And because I want to see like what she's doing. And she said, when it's finished sometime in the future, in no great hurry, as it is a winter sweater and it has been hot 80s, 90s, very dry here. So Doris, if you're watching, comment again, please, because I want to know where I can follow you. Are you on Instagram? Are you on Ravelry? Where can I find you? I want to, because I don't know, and maybe I already do follow you somewhere, and I just, maybe you're an infrequent poster like I have been known to be, or maybe you're under a name that is not Doris, so I don't recognize, like for me, like if you know me as Beth, but I'm posting as PandemicKnittr, you might not put the two together. So I don't know. Anyway, I want to see what you're doing, Doris, and I want to see what all of you are doing. So if you have one of those names that, like, for instance, Selfish Knitter Colleen, I know her because I've met her in person, but she also is a very frequent commenter on my channel. So if you are on Instagram or Ravelry or somewhere that I can see what you're doing and you comment on my videos, can you just let me know below where I can find you and what name you are posting as? Because I'd like to follow the people who are watching me on a regular basis. So please comment below. And, you know, if you don't want me to share that information, or you can always just send me a private message. So whatever you're comfortable with, I like that I am building my own community, and it's fun sharing with you. And I want to have it be more of a back and forth, because I feel like so much of the time it's just me talking at the screen, and I really want to be part of a community here. And I do feel like there is that. I do. I know I've got quite a few of you who are commenting both here and on Instagram. So I'm loving that. I'm enjoying being part of this community. And I welcome more. So please don't be shy. Drop in, drop your name. And now a horrible edit to the end of the video. Like, subscribe, survive, and thrive. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.